African markets as usual. We'll be going over Uganda Securities Exchange on the last day of trading today, the 29th of December. We'll also be looking into the US markets and see how strong the indices like the S&P 500 have gone over the year and how they're going to be ending the year 2023. It's been a turbulent year for many markets, but the US markets have remained very resilient at the moment, as we can actually witness the very last day of trading. We do also have an interesting story coming in from the Treasury bond market. The results of the 20-year Treasury bond have actually been released, and if you're an investor within that bond, you are supposed to be watching tonight as we break down for you some of the results of that. But this is financial markets, and I hope you're having a good time. Remember to follow us on social media at Smart24TV now. You can also follow me personally at Anthony Sebale, and definitely you will be able to get the content live as it comes out. Definitely you will not regret the time you spent with us here. Let's get right into the business of today. Now, the Uganda Stock Exchange today had a couple of changes with an improvement of 297% in the volumes that were traded, as well as a 27% decline, however, in the turnover for the day, compared with the previous trading day, that was Thursday, December 28th. In aggregate, at least 5 equities out of the 19 listed participated in trade, ending the day with 5 gainers and 4 losers on the market. East African Breweries Limited led the gainers with a gain of at least 1.21%, followed by the Jubilee Holdings Limited stock with a gain of 0.33%. Nation Media Group came in as well at the same rate with a gain of 0.33%. And Kenya Airways as well with a gain of 0.33%. The Equity Bank Limited stock as well came in amongst the top gainers with a gain of at least 0.04%, closing off the day at a gain of 819.02 Ugandan shillings per share. The KCB stock came in as the bottom loser for the day with a loss of at least 0.59%, and this is closing off at 523.06 Ugandan shillings. Airtel Uganda as well came in as a loser with a 0.26%. By the way, Airtel was the only, actually the second domestic loser after MTN Uganda as well. And these were the only 2 domestic stocks that lost value on the market. MTN Uganda dropped off 0.18% of their value down to a price of 170.55 shillings, whereas Centum Investments as well lost 0.14% down to 205.36 Ugandan shillings. That's definitely the numbers there. But let's get to look at the facts behind these figures. Starting off with Airtel Uganda. Airtel Uganda is a recent listing, the most recent listing on the exchange. The stock got listed on the main board of the exchange on the 7th of November 2023. Currently, Airtel Uganda is boasting of a market capitalization of 408 billion Ugandan shillings, which makes it about to represent about 2.6% of the USE equity market. Looking at the position, it's the 9th in terms of value on the stock exchange. However, in terms of activity, the company has had a couple of trading days and a couple of shares that have been traded. However, on the flip side, the stock price has been reducing ever since listing on the main board of the exchange. Today, actually, we had over 11,100 shares traded at 1.04 million Ugandan shillings. Making the company actually lose 0.24 Ugandan shillings in a stock price value down to 93.76 Ugandan shillings per share. Airtel Uganda got to list finally this year on 7th of November following a couple of changes in their IPO, and one of them being an extension of the initial public offer, something which was alien to the Uganda Securities Exchange market. Now, following that extension, the biggest investor in the company currently, amongst all the other public investors, that is NSSF Uganda, NSSF invested at least 199 billion shillings in the company, at least taking hold of 10% of the entire company, or 50% of all the floated shares. Now, this was following the incentives that Airtel put in place, where each share was subsidized for institutional investors from 100 Ugandan shillings initially to 47 shillings at the moment when NSSF invested. And NSSF became not only the biggest institutional investor, but the biggest public investor apart from Airtel India, or Bharti Airtel. Now, when you look at the current stock performance of Airtel Uganda, in terms of the initial pricing from 100 shillings, currently the stock is at a value of 94 shillings, meaning they have lost at least 0.3% of value in stock market trading. However, in terms of trading, they are the 7th most traded on stock on the exchange. Not very bad for a new stock, but still leaves more room for improvement. And the stock currently, since the 28th of November, has traded close to 190,600 shares on the stock market, valued at 18.4 million Ugandan shillings, with an average of 9,081 shillings traded on every trading session. You can maybe give me comments in your feedback on Twitter or X or on YouTube, those of you who are watching us from there. Do you think the performance of Airtel currently so far is satisfactory, or has it added any, has there been momentum on the exchange in as far as Airtel's performance is concerned? You get that feedback through the social media platform. We'll be definitely having it come through. Well, besides Airtel, we have another telecommunications company, MTN Uganda. MTN Uganda also lost value on Friday, the very last day. By the way, today is the very last day of trading for the entire year. So whatever markets, whatever mark we are going to leave to that tonight, that's it for the year, and then we start on a new note in the year 2024. A very momentous moment or occasion here for us. Now, MTN Uganda is amongst also the bottom losers as well for the very last day of trading. MTN closed off the day with a loss of 0.31 shillings, down to 170.55 shillings. And MTN Uganda followed listing after the national broadband policy adjustments or amendments that required all telecommunications companies to list at least 20% stake on the Uganda Securities Exchange. MTN Uganda got to list eventually on the 6th of December 2021, about 2-3 years ago. And the MTN currently has the #1 most valuable stock. And currently, with the market capitalization of 3.82 trillion, the company represents about a quarter, or 24.3% of the entire Uganda Securities Exchange equity market. Now, yesterday, rather tonight, the capitalization of the stock remained at 3.82 trillion. However, the stock price dropped slightly by 0.31 points, down to 170.55 points. Now, MTN Uganda traded 6,050 shares, valued at 1.03 million shares. And when you look at the longer-term performance, 6-month performance is quite much better. However, the year-to-date and year-on-year performance are still leaving a lot to be desired. MTN Uganda is still currently the 3rd most traded on stock on the exchange. In the past 3 months, it has traded close to 8.03 million shares, and these are valued at 1.38 billion. Still marking one of the biggest turnovers within the Uganda Securities Exchange. Quite interesting performance from MTN Uganda on the Uganda Securities Exchange. Well, that's it from the top gainers. The other top gainers, rather bottom losers and top gainers, are mainly cross listings, and indeed only cross listings. And their movements are really due to external macroeconomic factors such as inflation and foreign exchange. And currently, when you look at the indices that we have here on the Uganda Stock Exchange, the benchmark index or the all-share index improved consequent of the generally positive movement of the cross-listed stocks. This was moving up to by 0.2 points, up to around 872.50 points, representing a 1-week loss of at least 0.45% and a 4-week loss of at least 3.88%, and an overall year-to-date loss of at least 28.05%. The local company index, or the LCI, on the other hand, as well decreased by 0.15%, down to at least 271.85 points, consequent of the losses on the telecoms, that is MTN and Airtel Uganda. Generally speaking, that's it from the Uganda Securities Exchange. Please follow for more on www.smart24tv.now and get to at least get the latest information on all these stock market performances. Otherwise, we would like to just give you a snippet into the Treasury bond market. Now, the Treasury bond market is where we have institutions and individuals lending to government through auctions on the primary market and through trading on the secondary market. And the Treasury bond market has been indeed, in the last few months, one of the most highly returning investments that people have made. Now, there's been a 20-year Treasury bond that the Bank of Uganda was auctioning, and the results are out. And I would just like to give you some of the details from the results here. The 20-year Treasury bond attracted substantial number of bids this year, topping off at a cut-off price of 100 and a boosting of a competitive yield to maturity, or the famously called YTM, of at least 15.99%, approximately 16%. Furthermore, the bond fetched a cut-off price of 101.018 for every 100, thereby solidifying its value. Impressively, the 20-year bond is poised to pay its forthcoming coupon interest on the 11th of January 2024. Those who cut, for example, if you took an initiative to invest in this bond or in this Treasury bond auction, you stand to gain a lucrative 7% return, 7.5% return from your initial investments within the next 2 weeks. For instance, if you had 5 million Ugandan shillings invested from the Bank of Uganda, you're set to receive at least 337,000 Ugandan shillings. And this is in coupon income on the 11th of January 2024. This significant return is due to the bond's accumulated accrued interest over the 167 days, thereby making it an attractive and a very profitable investment. Now, considering the bond's exceptional 167-day accumulated accrued interest and its appealing cut-off price, the investors have acquired the bond at a discount. And the actual clean price paid by each investor stands at 94 Ugandan shillings for every 100. The 3-year Treasury bond, on the other hand, also saw robust interest, and with a cut-off price of 105.176 and a year to end maturity of at least 14%. Notably, all non-competitive bids, which primarily represent investments by individuals and retail investors as well as small companies, were all fully accepted. This indicates a growing appetite for Treasury bonds among these segments. Very interesting information there coming in from the Bank of Uganda. And the non-competitive bidders here, we mean those that don't make the 100 million mark. Remember, to invest in or to participate in an auction at the Bank of Uganda, you require at least 100 million and 100,000. That means you need 100 units plus one. So this is how it happens. So if maybe government wants to borrow through the Bank of Uganda, and this is maybe 120 billion, they'll go to the Bank of Uganda and actually issue these bonds, but they will be put on auction, meaning there will be investors coming in to bid, and the bid is not necessarily always accepted. Some bids are dropped and others are taken. Now, the bids that are called the competitive bids are those that are 100 million and 100,000. Okay, so you need 100 million plus 100,000 starting there onwards to be a competitive bidder. And that means you need to have this money on your account. When you do so, the Bank of Uganda goes through a series of the bids, and then the winners or the best bidders are taken. And the bidders always have their interest rates within the bonds. And then when, of course, the interest rate passes, they will be able to invest in the bond, and eventually they will start receiving coupons. The coupon is just a return or an interest on investment for a specific period of time that a particular individual or company or investor is holding a specific fixed income asset, for example, a treasury bond. So if you're going to have a 3-year treasury bond, you're going to earn coupons for 3 years, and coupons come in at least quarterly. And by quarterly, I mean, rather, they come in at least 6 months, every 6 months, half a year. You're going to be receiving that coupon. Now, this particular bond that we are talking about is 167-day accumulated. So they're going to be receiving their first coupon on the 11th of January. One of the reasons people invest in treasury bonds recently is their safety net, because they are non-risk investments. You're sure the government is going to pay back. Secondly, the returns are also high, substantially. For example, on average this year, the bonds have been at 16%. And now, like this 20-year treasury bond at 16% return, it's one of indeed the greatest investments you can make for return purposes, or for in case you do want to have a return on your investments currently. So that's something you need to look out for. A couple of other treasury bonds probably on the Bank of Uganda are going to be issued. So you keep your eyes open. You can get to access these through probably some of your stockbrokers. Some of them, you can also be able to access it through the retail, the so-called primary dealers. These are banking institutions that have been licensed and have been given the mandate to participate in auctions on behalf of their clients. These include Centenary Bank, Standard Chartered Bank, Stanbic Bank, and many, many others as well. Well, that is something to look out for as well on the Ugandan market. But let's move across to Nairobi Securities Exchange and have a look at their last day of trading. Now, on Nairobi Securities Exchange, at least as per the trading for the 29th of December, we had at least 2.6 million shares traded at a value of 731 deals and over 41.9 million Kenyan shillings. Compared with the previous trading day, that was the 28th of December, the day shows an improvement of at least 67, rather a decline of 67% in the volume and a decline of 64% in the turnover. Whereas the number of days improved by 15%. Market capitalization on the NSE still stands at 1.44 trillion Kenyan shillings. In the aggregate, at least 37 NSE stocks participated in trading, ending the day with 15 gainers and 16 losers on the market. Scan Group led the gainers with a 9% appreciation in price at least over 2.18 Kenyan shillings per share, closing off the day. TransCentury also added 8.33% on their value, whereas Home Africa had at least 5.71% appreciation in price. Crown Paints Kenya at least added 1.86% in value there on the Nairobi Securities Exchange. On the losing side, Ever Ready East Africa at least came out last with an end-of-day depreciation of 6.9%, and that was at a closure of 1.08 Kenyan shillings per share, whereas the Uchumi Supermarket stock at least lost 5.56%, and the Nation Media Group lost 4.98% of value, and Kenya Power lost at least 3.4%. Now, talking about losses on the Nairobi Securities Exchange, one of the companies that has made a very significant loss this year has been Longhorn Publishers, and we just have a look here at some of their results. Now, Longhorn Publishers has posted the worst performance since listing on the Nairobi Securities Exchange 11 years ago. Now, this is weighed down especially by a drop in textbook manufacturing and sale. And when you look at for the last 10 years as well, they have been able to service debt on a number of occasions. The publisher, that is Longhorn, is a publisher of textbooks mainly across East Africa. If you've been to primary schools in Kenya, in Uganda, and Tanzania, Longhorn Publisher is really a famous publisher amongst many publishers within the region. The publisher had issued a profit warning as well, and in the Friday notice, it said its full year to June net losses had widened nearly 7 times, from at least over 84.5 million Kenyan shillings, and that is about 540,000 US dollars, to 571.3 million Kenyan shillings, about 3.6 million US dollars approximately. That is 704 times the amount of losses that we had in the last before listing or just towards listing. The 2022 loss there's a restatement of the net profit of about 39.9 million Kenyan shillings. Now, this marks the worst loss since listing by introduction on the Nairobi Securities Exchange in May 2012. The latest loss is worse than the 225.9 million Kenyan shillings loss that it posted in 2020, following, of course, a lengthy closure of schools due to the COVID-19 pandemic, and this hurt the book sales. Now, to put things in perspective, a company is supposed to list in order to make profit or to be able to gain capital and expand. On the other hand, companies like Longhorn Publishers, since listing, their losses have been multiplied 7 times. Just put things in perspective there. You're going to raise capital. Yes, you get to raise the capital, but immediately after raising the capital, your losses spiral actually all the way down to 7 times the losses you were making before. It's a very disturbing picture of Longhorn Publishers here. Now, according to the publisher, they're saying, and I'm quoting, various macroeconomic headwinds over the past year have had a significant impact on the business. And they have seen rising inflation, an increase in the interest rates, currency depreciation, and general economic slowdown across the markets, which has resulted in a drop in spending on textbooks. I think this story about macroeconomics and inflation and currency is kind of not convincing enough, because it has been a story we are hearing since COVID-19. Many companies have given us the same story. Inflation is here, and of course, the amounts of pressure that the companies have is immense as well to try to return to their profit levels that they had before the COVID-19 pandemic. But I feel like it's kind of becoming an excuse rather than something to learn from and move on. And this is what we're seeing currently on companies like Longhorn Publishers. We're going to pick this story up probably next year, and we see quite a number of companies that are in the same situation or in similar situations as the Longhorn Publishers. But let's first of all continue here as we wind down the day on the US markets and have a look at how the US markets are going to be ending the year. Now, the last day of trading in 2023 has arrived, yes, and it's still on. Remember, the US is a couple of hours behind, and so they're still on with their trading currently. It appears to be taking a breath after a muscular year-end rally pushed stocks close to record highs. The Standard & Poor's 500, or the S&P 500, hovered near an all-time closing high of 4,796 points. And the benchmark average increased just 0.02% on Friday morning. Meanwhile, the Dow Jones Industrial Average at least added 0.05% or about 20 points, while the tech-heavy Nasdaq was just over the flat line. While stocks were little changed during the first hours of major trading, the major indices powered through a year of economic uncertainty. The Dow has risen more than 13% this year on average, and the S&P 500 enjoyed gains of nearly 25%, whereas the Nasdaq has swelled at least about 44% year to date. The resilience of the stock market this year played out against the backdrop of an aggressive tightening campaign by the Federal Reserve. We've seen that campaign quite often. Every time the Federal Reserve Bank Chairman, Mr. Jerome Powell, came out, we knew it was a hike. And the central bankers set out to rein in historical levels of inflation. And while the Federal Reserve as well received criticism after some market observers for acting too slowly to grapple with the pricing pressures, sentiment on Wall Street has been buoyed by hopes that the central bank is done with the rate hiking. I don't know. I bet on this one. While analysts also disagree over what the 2024 year will bring to the market, and that is on the backdrop of the banking sector, as of the Federal Reserve's posture that's far less restrictive in the next couple of years. The tech stocks, which have driven much of the growth in the market, have enjoyed a very good month recently and are seen by more bullish analysts as leading the way to even more gains in the next year. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen, and that's it from us tonight. A very wonderful show indeed it has been for us to have this entire year. We're going to, of course, not have this until next year, which is just a couple of hours away. I hope you have had a very good time with family and friends during this festive season. And for me and the team, Happy New Year. See you next time. Bye for now.